Have you ever wondered why you desire what you desire? What if that so-called free will you believe you have is nothing more than an ancient whisper echoing from the depths of your psyche? What if the true power isn't in repressing your desires, but in listening to them, deeply, without judgment? Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung understood this truth, like few others. We are all immersed in a thick fog, a fog where the decisions we think we're making independently were already predetermined by invisible forces, by unresolved wounds, by unrecognized impulses, by voices we've learned to ignore over time. And in that fog, desire whispers. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It murmurs, softly but constantly, like a presence that refuses to be silenced. You can feel it, even if you don't want to. It's in the way you adjust your clothes before walking out the door. It's in the anxiety that tightens your chest when you feel invisible. It's in that strange fatigue that hits you when you're left alone with yourself. There's something there, something ancient, something primal, something you've learned to bury, but that never really left. And now, right in this moment, we're going to go down together into that space. Not to condemn desire, not to tame it or shame it, but to face it, to strip it of its masks, to hear its true voice. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in your life, you'll realize there is a power inside it that you've never dared to touch. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. What you're about to hear may disturb you, but it will awaken what's been sleeping. Have you ever loved someone you should never have loved? Have you ever felt an urge so powerful it made you feel ashamed? Have you ever wanted something with such intensity that you pretended not to want it at all, just to survive your own guilt? That is where the wound begins. And where the wound begins, desire is also born. That's where the abyss opens. For Carl Jung, desire was never a shallow whim of the flesh. He didn't see it as something superficial or trivial. No, he saw it as a language, a mysterious, ancient language that speaks directly to the soul. And among all human desires, there was one that pulsed the deepest, that came from the oldest part of us, and that was the most dangerous, sexual desire. But hold on, don't confuse it. We're not talking about pornography, about objectified bodies, about the erotic cliché sold to your eyes on a screen. We're talking about Eros, desire as a psychic force, as a longing to belong, as the deep hunger to be seen, touched, acknowledged, not just by anyone, but by someone who truly sees you. Have you ever felt that? That craving that doesn't come from pleasure, but from absence, from that silent emptiness inside that screams to matter to someone, that cries out to exist in the eyes of another. That kind of desire builds obsessions. It sculpts the characters we play. It carves the masks we wear every day. Jung said that anything within you that you don't acknowledge will turn against you. And desire, when denied, doesn't vanish. It just changes shape. It slips into the shadows, and in the shadows, it becomes dangerous. It begins to guide your decisions without your consent. It's there in how you choose your partner. It's there when you sabotage your own relationships. It lives in that strange emptiness that persists even when you've achieved everything you thought you wanted. Jung didn't define libido as just sexual energy. For him, it was something far greater, a life force, a creative energy, a sacred current that fuels your being. But when it's repressed, when it's ignored, that same energy starts to decay. It transforms into anxiety, into rage, into addiction, into compulsions that you can't explain. Have you noticed? That same force that could give you wings can start to poison you from the inside. Why do you try so hard to be accepted? Why does it matter to you what people would think, even when no one is watching? Because there's a desire behind all of it. The desire to be loved, the desire to be wanted. And when that desire goes unacknowledged, it burns you from within. But there's more. Repressed desire doesn't just hurt. It creates masks. It constructs personas. You built one. We all did. That version of yourself that smiles in public. That looks composed. That seems successful, kind, admirable. But the truth? That version of you trembles when you're alone. Because it's not who you really are. It's the wall you built to hold back the storm of your desires. And do you know what happens when you live behind that wall for too long? You break. You begin to fragment. You become divided between what you feel and what you show, between who you are and who you pretend to be. And in that crack, in that fracture, desire waits. It watches. It grows. Until one day, it erupts. Maybe in a strange dream, maybe in an impulsive act, maybe in a devastating passion that pulls you violently from the ground. Because that force isn't rational. It doesn't follow your carefully drawn plans. It doesn't care about your calendar, your responsibilities, or your image. It wants one thing, only one thing, to be recognized. Jung called it the shadow, that hidden part of you, the place where everything you suppress, deny, or are too ashamed to admit goes to live. It's everything you pretend not to feel, everything you bury deep within, hoping it'll stay silent. But it doesn't. It festers in the darkness, quietly shaping your life from the shadows. And now, let me ask you something that might disturb you. How many of the decisions you've made were truly yours? How many were born not from conscious choice, but from a hidden longing you didn't even know existed? The most unsettling truth is this. The very desire you've spent your life denying is often the one driving your fate. You believe you're in control. You tell yourself that you're the one choosing, the one steering the wheel. But what if it's actually that hidden part, the one you refuse to acknowledge, that's been guiding you all along? What if your shadow is the true author of your story? This is the invitation Jung offers us. To look at that desire, not to shame it, not to suppress it further, but to listen, to understand what it's been trying to tell you all these years. And perhaps, if you dare to look closely, you might discover that the very thing you feared the most, the thing you tried hardest to avoid, is actually the key to your freedom. Have you ever wondered why you keep making the same mistakes? Why you're always drawn to the same kind of people, the same heartbreaks, the same emotional traps? Why the same patterns keep showing up like ghosts from your past? It's not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's unconscious destiny. A script written not in words, but in wounds you never healed. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What does that mean in real life? It means that while you walk through your days believing you're the one making the choices, there's a silent part of you, a part that's hurt, forgotten, or angry, that has already made those choices for you. It means you're not as free as you think. You are being led from within by something you've never dared to face. That something has a name, the shadow. But don't misunderstand it. The shadow isn't just a collection of old traumas or repressed memories. It's alive. It has its own will. It wants, it desires, it moves you, especially when you deny it. In fact, the more you try to ignore it, the stronger it becomes. Have you noticed your obsession with control? that endless need to manage everything, to plan, to anticipate pain, and avoid discomfort. That's not strength. That's a disguise. Control is just the paint you put on chaos. Beneath that surface, there's fear, there's rage, there's a storm you've never named. You've convinced yourself you're in charge of your life. But then why? In the silence of the night, when everything is quiet, do you feel that nameless emptiness? Why do certain memories still haunt you with the weight of things left unsaid, unresolved, unforgiven? Why is it that, when you're alone, you sometimes can't even recognize who you are? The answer lies in another concept Jung explored deeply: the persona. That's the social mask you wear, the version of yourself that smiles, behaves, performs, the you that others find acceptable, polished, polite, capable, but incomplete. Not false in a malicious way, just false enough to feel like a prison. The persona isn't evil, it's necessary. We all need a face to show the world. The danger comes when you forget it's a mask, when you believe that's all you are, when you forget that behind the smile, there's a scream, that behind the efficiency, there's exhaustion that runs through generations, that behind the calm, there's a buried desire that never had the courage to speak its name. You might appear peaceful on the outside, but your unconscious is burning inside, and you can't fix it with logic. You can't soothe it with affirmations. The unconscious doesn't care about pretty words. It listens to symbols, to patterns, to repetition. That's why you sabotage yourself. That's why you feel panic before big decisions. Why you're drawn to people who hurt you or remind you of something familiar, even if it's painful. They touch something deep within you that even you don't fully understand. That's your unconscious trying to speak, and when you ignore it, it screams. It screams through your symptoms, through your failures, through the cycles you can't seem to break. Have you noticed that certain relationships always end the same way? That you're stuck in a loop that feels eerily familiar, like an emotional déjà vu? You're not imagining it. You're reliving something. Because what isn't healed repeats itself. But why? Why repeat what hurts? The answer is devastating, and yet deeply human. You repeat because, somewhere deep inside, you're trying to heal. You unconsciously recreate the original wound, hoping that this time you'll react differently, that maybe this time the story will end another way. But how can you change the ending if you don't even know the script is repeating? You'll only escape the loop when you finally confront what lies behind your mask. When you gather the courage to look beneath the illusion of control. And what will you find there? Desire, fear, shame, a desperate hunger to be seen, and a silent, smoldering rage from betraying yourself over and over just to be accepted. Yes, you betrayed yourself. You silenced your truth. You reshaped who you were. You edited your soul, all to fit in, all to please. And the price? You lost parts of yourself. You strayed from your essence. That's why, even when everything in your life seems to be going right, you still feel like something is terribly wrong. That ache inside you is your soul knocking on the door. It's whispering, "Come home. Come back to everything you once felt." But to come home, you have to drop the mask. And that journey is anything but comfortable. You'll have to face the part of you that desired someone forbidden, the part that took pleasure in envy, that lied to be loved, that smiled while hating itself. That part is also you. Denying it won't save you. It will only split you. There is no salvation in repression. The only way out is through integration, to accept that within you lives both light and shadow, both desire and modesty, both strength and fragility, and none of them is more correct than the other. The real problem was never the desire itself. It was your refusal to hear what it was trying to say. You can keep pretending that everything is under control, but deep inside, something knows the truth. And that truth is raw, painful, but also freeing. You never had control. But now, maybe for the first time, you can begin to gain it by taking the first step, removing the mask. There's a force within you that refuses to be tamed. It doesn't want explanations. It doesn't seek approval. It doesn't care about rules or expectations. It just is, untamed, unfiltered, wild. This force has an ancient name, one forgotten by religion, hidden by rules, and twisted by morality. And yet, it's still there, beating inside you, waiting, not to destroy you, but to free you. Carl Jung called it Eros. But Eros is not the romantic love you hear about in songs, nor is it the sexual energy glamorized in movies. It's not the desperate longing dressed up in poetic words. Eros is something much deeper, much more essential. It is the vital force, the breath that animates flesh, the impulse that raises civilizations, the current that fuels art, the power that shatters egos. It is desire, yes, but desire seen, without filters or shame. It is desire stripped of illusions, observed with unflinching honesty. Jung came to understand that this energy, so intense, so misunderstood, is not confined to the physical body. It seeps into our dreams, into the words we never speak, into the projects we abandon, and the passions that grab us by the soul, dragging us into the rawest, most uncontrollable parts of who we are. Eros is not simply about lust or attraction. It's a sacred fire, the animating spirit behind everything we create and everything we destroy. And like all fire, it has dual nature. It can enlighten or it can consume. That's why Jung insisted. Eros must not be repressed. It must be integrated, because what we repress doesn't vanish. It mutates, it hides, it retaliates. Have you ever noticed that certain people carry a peculiar spark in their eyes? Something wild, almost untamed. A flicker of a presence that survived the brutal massacre of conformity. Those people didn't kill their Eros. They befriended it. They learned to listen to that voice, to converse with it, to walk alongside it the way one would tame a wild animal. Not with violence, but with respect. And when you do that, something extraordinary happens. Your desire stops sabotaging you. It begins to guide you. Jung called this process the transmutation of libido, when your most primal energies stop chasing momentary pleasure or social approval, and instead become engines of creativity, forces of meaning, building blocks of an authentic life. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's alchemical work, the kind of deep inner labor that turns lead into gold. You take what is base, chaotic, even shameful, and instead of burying it, you refine it. You make it into something sacred, into art, into bravery, into compassion, into truth. Ask yourself, what drives you to want to be desired? What compels you to fight for recognition? What lies behind your ambition, your hunger for success, your need to be seen, to feel exceptional? If you dig deep enough, you'll find Eros. Because Eros is at the root of every great creation and every tragic downfall. It is the same force that inspired artists to create timeless masterpieces and drove lovers to ruin themselves chasing an illusion. But only those who fail to understand what lives inside them are destroyed. Only those who fight against their own nature get lost. Jung believed that the true process of individuation, The journey of becoming who you really are requires confronting Eros directly, not dominating it and not surrendering to it, but integrating it, making it your companion, your equal, not your slave, not your tyrant, but your ally. Because Eros carries your creative power, and where there is creativity, there is healing. Have you ever noticed how your most brilliant ideas often come to you in the most unexpected moments, during the surge of a new passion, or right after a heartbreak that tore you apart? In the middle of emotional chaos, there's Eros again, trying to escape through the only door you left open. The door of art, the door of truth, of expression, of that spontaneous gesture that says what your soul has been aching to release. Now imagine all the energy you've spent trying to hide it, suppress it, control it. What if that same energy had been redirected, channeled, transmuted? How many books could you have written? How many dreams could you have brought to life? How many truths could you have lived if you hadn't been so busy trying to look normal? But it's not too late. Eros is still alive, maybe suffocated, maybe asleep, but alive, waiting. And he doesn't want to be eliminated. He wants to be honored. When you begin to walk with Eros, something inside you shifts. Your presence changes. Your voice deepens. Your gaze carries something people can't quite name, but everyone feels. You're no longer just a character playing a role. You become real. And what is a real person, if not someone who has made peace with their own madness? Do you want power? Then turn your desire into expression. Turn your hunger into creation. Turn your emptiness into awareness. That's the path. That's the work. Not to destroy Eros, but to understand him. To let him live inside you. Not as chaos, but as clarity. Not as destruction, but as purpose. Because within Eros lies your most potent energy, the sacred fire through which all transformation becomes possible. Jung once said, "He who looks outside dreams, but he who looks inside awakens." And when you dare to look within, what you find is not always beautiful or easy to accept. You will see your own Eros, raw, naked, unfiltered, untamed, but not an enemy. It is wild, yes, but not evil. And in that deep gaze, for perhaps the first time, you might truly see yourself. Not the polished version you wish to present to the world, not the one you imagine in your fantasies, but the one that has always existed in the shadows, the one you've hidden, the one you've ignored, the one that aches to be acknowledged. And in that strange, powerful, and often brutal moment of truth, something shifts, something deep. That is where the real transformation begins. Not with a new plan or a better version of yourself, but with the courage to see. Have you ever stopped to consider the possibility that you've never actually been free? I'm not talking about political freedom or your ability to vote, to travel, to choose a career. I'm speaking of something far more intimate, the freedom to be exactly who you are, unapologetically, without masks, without lies, without needing to hide from your own reflection. Jung reminded us that this inner freedom comes at a cost, and the price is steep. You must take full responsibility for your own desire. You can no longer point fingers, no longer blame your upbringing, your parents, the system, or the dogmas of religion. You can no longer say, "They made me this way," because the truth is harder. You silenced yourself. You repressed. You ran away. And now you have two choices: integrate or be consumed. Most people choose consumption. They live trapped, not in a prison built by others, but in one they constructed themselves. Trapped within the persona they built to be accepted. Trapped in the role they agreed to play just to feel worthy of love. How many times did you say yes when your entire body wanted to scream no? How many times did you make love while your soul wasn't even present? How many times did you smile with dead eyes just to avoid conflict or rejection? Do you think all that goes unnoticed by your inner world? It doesn't. It has consequences. And the greatest of all is the slow and painful forgetting of yourself. You get so accustomed to the character you perform that one day you can no longer remember the way back home, the path to your truest essence. And then one day, when true desire knocks on your door, real, burning, undeniable, you panic because you know what's at stake. If you let that desire in, everything could fall apart. Your marriage, your job, your carefully crafted reputation, even the image of the balanced person you've worked so hard to maintain. So what do? You run. You run from the very impulse that could set you free, because it also threatens to expose you. But here's the paradox. The more you run, the louder it becomes. Desire doesn't disappear. It waits. It lingers at the edges of your consciousness, pulsing in your dreams, in your sleepless nights, in your unexplained anxiety, in your chronic boredom, in the anger that explodes without warning. Repression makes you sick, but integration, that's terrifying, because to integrate means to accept that you are not one, but many. Inside, you lives a monk, and a savage, a healer, and a destroyer, a loyal lover, and a traitor waiting in the wings. All of them are you. All of them are real. It's painful to look at this internal multiplicity. It challenges everything you've been taught about right and wrong, about good and evil. But in that brave gaze, in that confrontation with your whole self, something extraordinary happens. You begin to taste true freedom. You are not free because you suppress desire. You are free when you learn to walk beside it, to listen to it, to understand it, to move with it, not as its slave, but also not as its jailer. When desire is recognized, it becomes a compass. But when it is denied, it becomes your destiny. And what kind of destiny is that? A loveless marriage, a career that drains your soul, a fake spirituality that gives you comfort but not depth, a life lived on autopilot, where you smile in photos but cry in silence. You might seem perfectly fine on the outside, but inside, you're dying of thirst. And here's the cruel part. The well is within you. The water you seek has always been there, but you were taught to fear it. Society does not want you to embrace your Eros, because someone who makes peace with their shadow is dangerous. They don't obey blindly. They don't consume to fill the void. They don't accept prefabricated narratives. Such a person awakens others, and that is unacceptable in a world built on distraction, sedation, and control. That's why Eros has been tamed, ridiculed, moralized, because it is rebellious, it is sacred, it connects you to your personal power, and no one can give you that. Only you can claim it. But be prepared. When you integrate your desire, it does not vanish. It matures. It stops being a childish whim and becomes your internal guide. You begin to choose with intention, to love with presence, to create with power, to live with truth. And even more, you stop blaming the world, because you finally realize that the biggest prison was a door you locked from the inside. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be whole. And being whole means accepting that your desire is not a flaw, not a sin, not a malfunction. It is a signal, a reminder that the fire inside you still burns. And if you care for that fire, not smother it, not let it consume you, it can become your light. Carl Jung said, "Where your fear is, there lies your power." So if your deepest desire terrifies you, perhaps that is exactly where you hid your greatest strength. So now I ask you, will you keep living as if that door doesn't exist? Or will you finally summon the courage to open it? But listen carefully. Once you cross that threshold, you can never go back. You can no longer claim ignorance. Because once you know the truth, it transforms you. And transformation always demands a price. But living in lies, that costs even more. So here we are, maybe at the end, or maybe at the beginning. After everything you've heard, tell me honestly, how many times have you lied to yourself today? How many times did you dress up your desire in the name of productivity? How many times did you call hunger love? How many times did you wear a mask just to avoid scaring others? Right now, you might feel something stirring, a strange sensation, maybe a bit of unease, maybe a tightness in your chest, as if something long asleep inside you has started to move. That's good. That means something has begun to wake up. But don't fool yourself. Truth doesn't set you free right away. First, it destroys everything false. And in that collapse, in that sacred chaos, you begin to find out who you really are. Jung didn't offer us comfort. He offered us a mirror, and not many dare to look. But if you've looked this far, if you've made it all the way to this last word, carrying every other word inside you, then maybe, just maybe, you're already freer than you think. I remember a night, years ago, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Something inside me was burning. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't fear. It was desire. The desire to be real, to be present, to be me. But I didn't know what to do with it. So I wrote. I wrote until my hands ached. And among all the things I poured onto the page, one sentence remained etched in my soul. The part of me that scares me the most might be the one that needs me the most. Today, sharing this with you through this video is my way of telling you that you're not alone. We all carry shadows, hidden fears, doubts, and parts of ourselves that we try to ignore. But it's only when we gather the courage to step into those shadows, to truly face what we've been avoiding, that we begin to uncover the light we've been searching for. That light isn't always loud or dazzling. It can be subtle, like a quiet realization or a gentle shift in perspective. And if you're still here with me now, that means you've walked this path, at least for a moment, and that's something powerful. It means something inside you is ready to grow, to awaken, to remember. Thank you for coming this far with me. That alone is a quiet revolution, a rebellion without noise, a transformation that starts within, invisible to the outside world, but deeply felt on the inside. But now, we've reached a strange part of this ritual, the algorithm. It doesn't understand emotion. It only understands action, and it demands its offering. A click on the like button, a comment, a signal to the machine that something here resonated with you. If not, the algorithm doesn't care. It will let your repressed desires keep choosing your life, your relationships, your patterns, without your permission. So this is where choice comes in. Will you feed the machine mindlessly, or will you play with it consciously? Leave a comment below. Something cryptic, something only the initiated will understand. Something like dominating ledges. Maybe it means nothing, or maybe it means everything. Maybe it's just a whisper from your subconscious trying to speak through symbols. And if you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Are you expecting a sign from the collective unconscious? A symbol? A synchronicity? A strange coincidence that makes you stop and think, was this really random? Or is something deeper trying to guide me? Well, here it is. The sign, the whisper, the nudge you didn't know you needed. Subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell. It doesn't bite, it awakens. It doesn't trap you, it reminds you. It keeps that doorway open. The one that connects you to thoughts and truths you didn't even know you were searching for. And those videos, right there, floating next to this one. One of them might hold the key to why you've never truly felt loved. Why, despite everything, you've always carried that emptiness in the background. And the other one, you probably shouldn't watch it before going to sleep. Let's just say, it's the kind of truth that doesn't let your dreams stay peaceful. See you soon. Or maybe, I'll see you in your dreams.
Rejection is one of the most painful and universal experiences a human being can endure. Throughout history, the need for acceptance has been a cornerstone of the collective psyche. From childhood, we seek validation from our caregivers, friends, and authority figures. But what happens when that validation never arrives? How does our self-perception shift when we face rejection in love, work, or personal relationships? Carl Gustav Jung, in his profound exploration of the unconscious, offers us a groundbreaking perspective. Rejection is not just an isolated event, but a reflection of our own hidden shadows, the aspects of ourselves we suppress out of fear of not being accepted. But what if rejection was never the enemy? What if, instead of being a wound, it was actually an opportunity for self-discovery and transformation? The fear of rejection is one of the deepest emotional wounds we carry, both individually and as a society. Not being chosen, not being validated, feeling excluded. These experiences strike at our very core. We have been conditioned to equate rejection with failure, but Jung challenges us to look deeper. To him, everything that disturbs us holds a hidden message waiting to be deciphered. It is within the shadows that our deepest truths are concealed, and paradoxically, where our greatest power also resides. Imagine this everyday scenario. You send a message to someone important to you, but you don't receive an immediate response. Within seconds, your mind begins spinning narratives. They don't care about me. Did I say something wrong? Maybe they don't want to talk to me anymore. In just a few minutes, a simple lack of response triggers a storm of insecurities and doubts. This is the power of rejection. It reactivates old wounds, ones that were formed in childhood and reinforced over time. But what if, instead of allowing ourselves to be consumed by these emotions, we use rejection as a tool for self-awareness? What if we could transform anguish into an opportunity to strengthen our relationship with ourselves? Reverse psychology offers a revolutionary approach. Instead of resisting rejection or begging for validation, it invites us to shift our perception. Jung spoke of the importance of integrating the shadow, that is, acknowledging and embracing the part of ourselves that we fear or deny. If rejection makes us feel unworthy, instead of running from that feeling, we could ask ourselves, why am I seeking this external validation? What parts of myself am I failing to value? This is where rejection transforms from an adversary into a teacher. Instead of viewing it as an obstacle, we can use it as a mirror. Every time we feel rejected, we have the chance to examine our limiting beliefs. Are we truly less valuable just because someone dismissed us? Or are we simply projecting onto others the power to define our worth? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you changed your behavior or overextended yourself just to avoid rejection? We adapt, we reshape ourselves, and too often we abandon our authenticity just to fit in. But this constant pursuit of approval can become a dangerous trap. Jung reminds us that true transformation happens when we stop searching for answers outside ourselves and instead turn inward to discover what has always been within. Rather than seeing rejection as an ending, we can begin to view it as the start of something new, an opportunity to rediscover ourselves, build unshakable self-worth, and remember that our value is not determined by external approval. Accepting our shadow, integrating our wounds, and embracing the uncertainty that rejection brings can lead us to a more fulfilling and authentic life. The real question is, how do we apply this wisdom in our daily lives? We can start by changing our relationship with rejection so that it stops being a burden and instead becomes a powerful tool for growth. The first step is self-awareness. Each time we experience the sting of rejection, instead of reacting impulsively, we can pause and ask ourselves, what is this moment revealing about me? What hidden fears, insecurities, or patterns are being exposed? The second step is to practice radical self-acceptance. Instead of desperately seeking validation from others, we can invest in building an inner foundation of self-love that remains steady regardless of external circumstances. And finally, we can use reverse psychology to shift our mindset. If someone rejects us, instead of seeing it as a loss, we can see it as a redirection towards something greater. Rejection is not a punishment. It is a golden opportunity to deepen our self-awareness. In this journey of self-discovery, there is no better guide than our own shadow. As Jung famously said, what you deny enslaves you. What you accept transforms you. Are you ready to turn rejection into your greatest ally? Reverse psychology is a tool that, when applied consciously, can completely change how we experience rejection and the emotions tied to it. Jung taught that the shadow, the suppressed, unacknowledged parts of ourselves, is not something to be eliminated, but rather something to be integrated. Reverse psychology can serve as the bridge for this integration. When faced with rejection, our instinct is to resist. We want to be accepted, validated, and loved. However, by using reverse psychology, we can reframe rejection and use that same energy to empower ourselves rather than allowing it to weaken us. Psychological studies have shown that individuals who cultivate emotional detachment consciously tend to develop greater resilience and a more stable sense of self-worth. One of the core principles of reverse psychology, when applied to rejection, is the theory of cognitive reappraisal. This theory suggests that how we interpret an emotionally painful experience can determine its long-term impact. If, instead of perceiving rejection as a statement about our worth, we view it as an opportunity for expansion and personal evolution, we take back our power. Rejection no longer defines us. It fuels our growth. Jung believed that the soul requires freedom to evolve, and part of that freedom comes from releasing the need for external validation. The ability to let go is fundamental in this process. In our daily lives, we often cling to relationships, jobs, or friendships that no longer contribute to our well-being, simply out of fear of rejection or loneliness. However, reverse psychology offers us a way to break free from these mental chains. When we stop insisting on something that causes us suffering, we experience an inner liberation that opens doors to new possibilities. Psychological techniques like Viktor Frankl's paradoxical intention illustrate this concept in action. Frankl proposed that when we stop fearing something and instead embrace it, its power over us diminishes. For instance, if we are afraid of rejection rather than avoiding situations that might expose us to it, we can face them with detachment. By doing so, we reduce emotional distress and gain a sense of empowerment. Another relevant study comes from Carol Dweck's research on the growth mindset. Her findings revealed that individuals who perceive challenges as opportunities for learning rather than fixed failures are more likely to overcome emotional struggles and develop greater self-confidence. Applying this principle to rejection allows us to view it not as a measure of our worth, but as a valuable lesson in personal growth. From Jung's perspective, releasing the need for external validation creates space for self-discovery. The shadow, instead of being an enemy, becomes a teacher. In this sense, reverse psychology acts as a tool to shift our focus from external approval to inner strength, enabling us to uncover our true power. This shift in perspective allows us to rewrite our internal narrative. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of rejection, we recognize ourselves as individuals in continuous transformation. This new outlook strengthens our sense of identity, liberates us from paralyzing fears, and connects us with an authenticity that naturally attracts relationships and experiences aligned with our true essence. The paradox of reverse psychology lies in the fact that the moment we stop desperately seeking approval, we become more appealing to others. However, this attraction is not based on manipulation, but on genuineness. When we are comfortable in our own skin, we radiate an energy that fosters more authentic and fulfilling interactions. Integrating reverse psychology into our lives allows us to transform rejection into a powerful tool for personal growth. It helps us release our attachment to external validation, reinterpret our experiences, and connect with our true essence. As Jung stated, "What you resist persists." By embracing rejection as a natural part of life, we strip it of its destructive power and turn it into fuel for our personal evolution. Throughout this journey, we have explored how rejection, rather than being a roadblock, can actually become a turning point in our lives. Jung taught us that not everything happens by chance. Certain events are deeply intertwined with our psyche and may serve as signals that internal change is necessary. When we shift our perspective on rejection, seeing it not as an enemy but as a guide, we unlock its potential for transformation. This is where reverse psychology plays a crucial role. The moment we let go of the need for external approval and begin to focus on our own authenticity, our energy shifts. The paradox is clear. When we stop trying to hold on, we naturally become more attractive, more magnetic. This isn't just a psychological trick. It happens because we align with our essence and stop living from a place of fear. But how do we apply this in everyday life? Here are some effective practices to help you integrate this mindset. Reframe your internal narrative. Whenever you face rejection, pause and question yourself. Is this truly a failure, or is it an opportunity to redirect your path? The way we interpret experiences shapes their impact on us. A no. Today may be the redirection we need to discover something even greater tomorrow. Observe synchronicity. Do not view rejection as a mere coincidence. Ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me? Where is it guiding me? Often, when we reflect on past events, we realize that a door closing at the right moment led us to something far better. Paying attention to these patterns can reveal profound insights about our journey. Practice emotional detachment. Letting go does not mean suppressing emotions. Rather, it means learning not to depend on external validation. The key is to give yourself the recognition you often seek from others. Dedicate a few moments each day to acknowledge your own worth, independent of outside approval. When you build self-assurance from within, rejection loses its sting. Transform resistance into acceptance. Jung emphasized that resistance only strengthens what we are trying to avoid. Instead of fighting rejection or the pain it causes, allow yourself to fully experience it, understand it, and then move forward with a renewed perspective. Acceptance is the bridge to growth. Live authentically. When you stop acting to please others and start expressing yourself genuinely, the right people naturally gravitate toward you. Instead of forcing situations, flow with life and trust that what is meant for you will find its way to you at the perfect time. Ultimately, rejection is not an endpoint. It is a catalyst. The moment you stop fearing it, you unlock a new level of freedom, confidence, and alignment with your highest self. Jung left us with a profound lesson. Those who look outside dream, but those who look inside awaken. And that is exactly what we're doing here, awakening. Understanding that every experience, even rejection, is a doorway to discovering our truth and aligning with our deepest purpose. The key is not to avoid rejection, but to decode its meaning and turn it into an advantage. So, how will you transform your next rejection into an opportunity for growth? Throughout life, we encounter rejection in many forms. Romantic setbacks, career disappointments, unfulfilled aspirations, even within our own families. In those moments, it is natural to feel lost, discouraged, or even question our worth. However, when we shift our perspective and view these experiences through the lens of synchronicity and reverse psychology, we realize they are not mere roadblocks, but hidden opportunities in disguise. Synchronicity teaches us that every significant event in our lives is intertwined with our inner world. Jung believed that nothing happens by chance. Rather, the universe mirrors our emotions, thoughts, and energy. This means that when we face rejection, instead of perceiving it as a punishment or proof of inadequacy, we can see it as a sign, a nudge from the universe, redirecting us toward a path that is more aligned with who we truly are. This is where reverse psychology becomes a powerful tool. Instead of resisting rejection or seeking external validation at all costs, we can do the opposite. Embrace it with calmness and detach from the need for approval. By doing so, we reclaim our personal power. In other words, The moment we stop trying to prove our worth to others and start affirming it within ourselves, our entire energy shifts. This internal transformation not only strengthens our self-esteem, but also makes us naturally more magnetic and compelling to those around us. When we adopt this mindset, rejection is no longer a source of suffering. It becomes a turning point. We can ask ourselves key questions. What is this experience trying to teach me? How can I grow from this? Is there something within me that needs to be strengthened before I move forward? Instead of getting stuck in frustration, we can use rejection as a guide, pointing us towards something better. Practicing reverse psychology in these situations means learning to flow with life's events rather than resisting them. When we cling to a relationship that no longer serves us, a job that fails to fulfill us, or an outdated self-image that no longer defines who we are, we only invite more suffering into our lives. However, when we accept that life is guiding us towards something greater and open ourselves to new possibilities, we experience profound and authentic growth. Jung famously said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." Applying this principle in the context of rejection means shifting our focus inward, exploring our emotions, and uncovering what we truly desire. When we do this, rejection ceases to be a roadblock and instead transforms into a mentor, guiding us toward personal evolution. Ultimately, when we release the need for external approval and embrace the idea that everything happens for a reason, we unlock a newfound sense of freedom. We come to realize that we don't need validation from the world to feel whole. It is in the state of authenticity and self-assurance that we begin to attract experiences that genuinely align with our essence. So the next time you face rejection, remember, this is not the end. It is an invitation to grow, to trust the process, and to allow life to lead you toward what truly belongs to you. Rejection is not a dead end, but a message from the universe, redirecting your energy towards something more in tune with your destiny. Have you ever experienced a moment where rejection led you to something even better? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content on deep psychology and personal transformation. See you in the next video.
Holding on to someone who doesn't value you is one of the most destructive forms of self-betrayal. It's insisting on staying where your presence doesn't matter. It's giving love where you only receive indifference. It's begging for emotional crumbs while the other person feeds off your energy without giving anything in return. And the worst part is, deep down, you know you don't deserve this, yet you stay. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And that is exactly what happens when you refuse to let go of someone who doesn't value you. You resist accepting reality. You resist understanding that love should never be begged for. You resist realizing that the more you cling, the less you're appreciated. The result is a vicious cycle where you drain yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically, while the other person moves forward without even looking back. Because here's the harsh truth that no one wants to face. If someone doesn't value you, it's not because they can't. It's because they don't want to. How emotional attachment destroys your mind, body, and spirit. Mentally, attachment turns you into your own worst enemy. Your mind becomes a constant battlefield between hope and reality. You keep telling yourself lies like, maybe if I do this, they'll appreciate me. Maybe they just need more time to realize how they feel about me. If I distance myself, they'll miss me and come back. But the reality is that each day you remain trapped in that illusion. You lose a little more of yourself. Physically, the stress from attachment shows up in your body. Your body knows when you're stuck in a situation that's destroying you. Insomnia, anxiety, fatigue, headaches, none of it is a coincidence. You're pouring immense energy into someone who doesn't return it, and the physical toll is brutal. Spiritually, attachment blocks your growth. Carl Jung spoke of the process of individuation, the journey of becoming your truest self. But when you cling to someone who doesn't value you, you stray far from your purpose. You become a mere shadow of what you could be, trapped in a one-sided relationship that only drains you. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who spent her days focused on a man who never made her a priority. She was always the one reaching out, calling, trying to make the connection work, while he was never truly present. One night, after yet another ignored message, another excuse that made no sense, she looked at herself in the mirror and asked the only question that mattered. Why am I still here? And in that moment, she saw the truth. It wasn't him who was hurting her. It was her hurting herself by staying. It wasn't him who was betraying her. It was her betraying herself by settling for less. It wasn't him who was destroying her. It was her own lack of courage to let go. That night, she made a decision. She deleted his number. She stopped waiting for his attention. She stopped making efforts for someone who wouldn't make any for her. And when she did, something incredible happened. For the first time in a long time, she felt free. She realized it had never been love. It had been attachment disguised as hope. Here's the lesson you need to remember. If you're still clinging to someone who doesn't value you, it's not love, it's fear. This is what you need to understand. If you have to convince someone to value you, you've already lost. If you feel you must prove your love through sacrifices, it's not love, it's dependence. If that person truly cared, you wouldn't even have to question it. Here's the absolute truth. Love doesn't need to be convinced. It is felt naturally, or it's not love. Love isn't begged for. It flows freely, or it isn't real. Love does not destroy you. What destroys you is your fear of letting go. In the next part, I'll tell you why, when you finally let go, you feel a deep emptiness, and how you can turn that pain into your greatest liberation. The emptiness after letting go. Why it feels like a loss, and how to turn it into freedom. When you finally decide to let go of someone who doesn't value you, you expect to feel immediate relief. You expect to wake up the next day feeling strong, empowered, free. You believe that making the best decision for yourself should instantly erase the pain. But the reality is different. Instead of relief, you feel an overwhelming emptiness. Instead of strength, you are overcome by a sadness that feels endless. Instead of freedom, you feel utterly lost. And it is at that moment that many people break and go back. They convince themselves that letting go wasn't the right choice. They tell themselves it wasn't that bad, that maybe they should have held on a little longer, that the pain they feel now is worse than the pain they felt being undervalued. But here's the truth, that emptiness does not mean you made a mistake. That emptiness is the sign that you finally broke free from an emotional dependency that was destroying you. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid confronting their own soul." And that's exactly what you're feeling right now. You're finally facing yourself without the distraction of someone who never truly valued you. For the first time, there's no one else to blame, no one else to chase after, no one else to pour your energy into. It's just you. And even though it might not seem like it at first, this is the greatest gift you could ever receive. Emptiness is not a loss. It's space for something new. When you let go of someone, your mind enters a state of crisis. Mentally, your brain is wired to resist change, even when the relationship was toxic. Your mind doesn't differentiate between what's good or bad for you. It just craves what's familiar. Emotionally, you feel like you lost a part of yourself, not because that person was essential, but because you invested so much energy into them that letting go left a blank space within you. Energetically, all your focus was directed outward, towards someone else. Now, you must learn to redirect that energy back into yourself. This is where many people stumble. They don't know what to do with all that energy. They don't know how to fill the emptiness in a healthy way. They struggle to support themselves emotionally without the idea of that person in their lives. And that's why they often return. Not because that person was good for them, but because they believe that anything is better than facing the void. But here lies the secret. The void isn't something you have to fill with another person. It's the space you need to rebuild yourself. It's the opportunity to fill yourself with your own essence, to discover who you are beyond that relationship, to reconnect with the version of yourself you abandoned in order to hold on to someone who never truly appreciated you. Let me tell you something. There was a man who spent years chasing a woman who never fully chose him. Every time he tried to walk away, she pulled him back with false promises, but never gave him real commitment. Every time he set boundaries, she manipulated him with sweet words. Years passed like this, until one day, after yet another disappointment, he decided to truly let go. He deleted her contact, walked away without explanation, and for the first time, focused all his energy on himself. The first days were agonizing. The urge to reach out to her consumed him. He felt as if something inside him was dying. But over time, something shifted. He realized that what he really missed wasn't her. He missed the version of himself that existed within that relationship. He missed the illusion, the role of the one trying to make everything work. He missed the validation from someone who had never truly made space for him in her life. And when he understood this, the emptiness disappeared. He realized it had never been love. It had been dependency disguised as connection. That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in years, not because she came back, but because he was no longer waiting for her. How do you turn emptiness into your greatest liberation? First, don't try to fill it with another person. The biggest mistake you can make is jumping into another relationship just to avoid feeling the void. If you do, you'll only repeat the same pattern. The void isn't meant to be filled by someone else. It's meant for you to meet yourself. Second, use that space to heal and rebuild. Ask yourself questions you've never dared to ask. What do I truly want from life outside of a relationship? What parts of myself did I abandon in that connection? What passions and dreams did I set aside while focusing on someone who didn't value me? This is the time to reclaim your identity. Third, learn to hold yourself emotionally without seeking distractions. The void hurts because we are not used to being with ourselves. True strength comes when you can sit in the discomfort of emptiness without running away. That's where transformation happens. Fourth, remember, letting go is not losing. It's gaining freedom. If someone didn't value you, you didn't lose a person. You lost the burden of carrying something that wasn't meant for you. Letting go doesn't leave you with less. It leaves you with more of yourself. Here's the lesson you must remember. If you're feeling the void after letting go, don't panic. The emptiness isn't a punishment. It's your soul clearing space for a new version of yourself. Don't fill it with another relationship or distractions or the desperate hope that person might return. Fill it with the only thing that should have never been missing: yourself. Because here's the absolute truth. If you can hold yourself through that emptiness without giving up, if you can resist the temptation to go back, if you can endure the temporary pain of detachment, very soon you'll realize that what you actually lost wasn't love. It was a burden you were never meant to carry. And next, I'll tell you what happens when you finally let go of the wrong person, and how that simple act creates space for what you truly deserve. Internal healing begins when you let go of the wrong person, when you finally release someone who never valued you. A deep transformation starts to take place inside you. At first, you might not even notice it, but something within you begins to reconfigure. What once was a connection based on dependency or fear of loneliness now becomes a chance to heal and rebuild yourself from the roots. The absence of that person leaves an empty space, and it's within that emptiness where the true transformation happens. Carl Jung called it the process of individuation, the journey of reclaiming all the parts of yourself you lost within that relationship. Carl Jung spoke about the process of individuation, which is the integration of all parts of our being to become complete and authentic individuals. When you are trapped in a relationship with someone who doesn't value you, little by little, you start to fragment. You suppress your needs to avoid causing discomfort. You change your way of being to try to be accepted. And you settle for less than you deserve because you're afraid of losing the person. Without realizing it, you distance yourself from your true essence and become a limited version of yourself, shaped by the dynamic of the relationship. But when you decide to let go, you begin to recover the parts of yourself that you had abandoned, the creativity you set aside, the enthusiasm you lost, the inner strength you thought had faded. Everything starts coming back. And this is where many people feel confused. They ask themselves, how is it possible that after all this pain, I feel more like myself than ever before? The answer is simple. Because by letting go of the wrong person, you reconnect with yourself. Letting go allows you to find your true identity and purpose. One reason why many people cling to unsatisfying relationships is that they find a sense of identity in them. They identify as the one who is always there, the one who never gives up, the one who loves unconditionally no matter what they receive in return. And when that relationship ends, they feel lost. They no longer know who they are outside of that dynamic. But here's the key. Letting go doesn't leave you without identity. It gives your true identity back to you. If all your energy was focused on someone else, now you can focus it on yourself. If before you lived according to what the other wanted, now you can ask yourself, what do you really want? If before you defined yourself through that relationship, now you have the opportunity to define yourself on your own. This is the hardest part, and at the same time, the most liberating. Because when you allow yourself to rebuild without someone else's shadow, you begin to discover that your life has a much greater purpose than you imagined. The transformation of your energy from dependency to empowerment. When you were in that relationship, all your energy was focused on the other person. You worried about whether they would reply to your messages, whether they paid enough attention to you, whether they valued you enough. Without realizing it, a large part of your emotional, mental, and even physical energy was spent on sustaining something that wasn't really yours. And now that the person is no longer there, you have the opportunity to reclaim all that energy and direct it towards something much more powerful, yourself. Energetically, you stop vibrating in lack and start vibrating in abundance. Mentally, You realize you don't need to beg for love, because real love never makes you doubt your worth. Emotionally, you learn to hold yourself up without needing external validation. And here's where something magical happens. When you heal internally, what used to attract you no longer does. That person you tried so hard to convince to choose you suddenly no longer interests you because you realize you were always enough. You just didn't see it before. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who spent years in a relationship with a man who never truly valued her. She was always the one trying to find solutions, trying to save the relationship, forgiving over and over again. Until one day, after another disappointment, she decided to let go. The first few days were hard. She felt the urge to call him, to reach out, to do something to win him back. But she resisted. Instead of focusing on him, she focused on herself. She started exercising again after years of neglecting her body. She returned to her passion for painting, which she had set aside for the relationship. She allowed herself to feel her pain without numbing it with distractions. And over time, something changed. She realized she didn't actually miss him. She missed the idea of him. What she really missed was the version of herself that existed in that relationship. A version that depended on someone else to feel complete. And when she understood this, her energy shifted. She no longer felt the need to beg for love. She no longer saw her past as a loss, but as a lesson. And most surprisingly, without even looking, new people started to come into her life. People who truly valued her. People who reflected the new version of herself. A woman who had learned to choose herself. How can you apply this to your life? 1. Focus your energy on your growth. Instead of wasting your energy on someone who doesn't value you, invest it in yourself. Learn something new. Work on your goals. Strengthen your mind and spirit. 2. Don't rush to fill the void with another person. Healing happens when you allow yourself to be with yourself without distractions. 3. Discover who you are outside of that relationship. Ask yourself, what things did I stop doing because I was focusing on someone else? Recover those parts of yourself. Trust that letting go will lead you to something better. You may not see it today, but by letting go of what wasn't meant for you, you're creating space for what you truly deserve. The great lesson you must remember: letting go of the wrong person is not the end. It's the beginning of your transformation. Because when you stop clinging to what isn't yours, you open yourself to receiving what you truly need. And in the next part, I'll tell you how your energy changes when you decide to let go, and why, when you stop chasing, your value increases in the eyes of others. The change in how others perceive you when you no longer chase. One of the most surprising changes when you finally let go of someone who didn't value you is how the way others perceive you changes. The moment you stop insisting, stop chasing, and withdraw your energy, something in the dynamic of the relationship shifts completely. You spent so much time clinging to that person, trying to prove your love, trying to get them to choose you, that without realizing it, you gave all the power to them. You taught them that you would always be there, that no matter how far they pulled away or how much they ignored you, somehow you would always come back. But when you decide to let go, when you truly walk away with no intention of returning, something changes in the energy you project. And that's something people notice, even if you don't say a single word. Why is absence more powerful than insistence? Human beings tend to underestimate what is always available. We take it for granted. We see it as something safe, something that won't change. But the moment it disappears, the instant it's no longer there, the brain goes into a state of alert. It's a simple psychological phenomenon. What once seemed secure suddenly becomes an unknown. The mind starts to wonder, why are they not chasing me anymore? Did they find someone better? Did they really walk away for good? What was once a constant presence becomes a void, and the mind hates voids. It tries to fill them with answers, with justifications, with assumptions. That person who took you for granted starts seeing you differently. Not because their feelings changed, but because they can no longer predict you. They can't be sure you'll be there when they need you. The simple act of withdrawing, without drama, without explanations, without trying to make them miss you, has a stronger impact than any speech you could give. Because absence creates curiosity, and curiosity is the first step toward revaluation. How the energy you project changes the way others see you. When you shift from an energy of dependency to one of self-sufficiency, people notice. You no longer carry that desperation to be chosen. You no longer seek external validation. You no longer need someone else's gaze to feel that you exist. And that makes you magnetic. Carl Jung spoke about individuation, the process by which an individual becomes the most authentic and complete version of themselves. Part of this journey involves letting go of external identifications, emotional dependencies, and the dynamics where we hand over our power to others. When you achieve this, when you truly detach from the need for approval, the world perceives you differently. Your energy shifts because you no longer emit lack, but abundance, and abundance is magnetic. People are drawn to those who do not need anything from them. There is a strength in someone who knows how to be alone, who feels whole by themselves, and that strength is perceived without a single word being spoken. The psychological effect on someone who loses you when you detach is profound. When someone has held power over you for a long time, when they believed they could leave and you would still be there waiting, they have never truly faced the possibility of losing you. But when you leave, when you genuinely disconnect, that person enters a phase of uncertainty. At first, they might not notice the difference. They may even feel relief, assuming everything remains under their control. Yet over time, as they realize you truly haven't returned, something triggers within their mind. They begin to question if they made the right decision. They wonder if you were really as dispensable as they thought, and the doubt starts to grow. It is often at this point that the person who never valued you tries to come back. Not because they have changed, not because they now love you differently, but because your absence creates discomfort. The human mind is wired to desire what it no longer possesses. This is where many people make the mistake of interpreting their return as a sign of love, when in reality it is merely the ego reacting to the loss of control. If you give in, if you open the door again, the cycle restarts. They receive the validation they need, and once more, their interest fades. Understanding the importance of not going back is crucial to avoid repeating the same pattern over and over again. Because when you choose to let go, you are not just doing it for the other person, you are doing it for yourself. It's not about manipulating anyone with your absence, but about reclaiming your power, about stepping away from a place where you are not valued. If someone only begins to see you when you leave, do they really deserve your presence? If someone needs to lose you to realize your worth, do they truly understand your value? The answer is simple: no. That is why, when you take the step to let go, when you genuinely decide to prioritize yourself, You must do it without expecting a reaction. Because if you do it hoping they will miss you and come back, you are still trapped in the same dynamic. Letting go is an act of self-love, not strategy. It is understanding that your value does not depend on whether someone else recognizes it. It is knowing that when you respect yourself enough to walk away from where you are not appreciated, you open yourself up to the kind of relationships you truly deserve. Because when you stop chasing, your value becomes unquestionable. Not because others say so, but because you have finally recognized it yourself. And when that happens, when you stop seeking validation from the world has no choice but to see you differently. That is the true transformation. And next, we will see how this liberation allows you to attract relationships that truly align with you. When you stop clinging to what isn't meant for you, life rewards you with what you truly deserve. How do you attract relationships that genuinely align with you once you have released what was not yours? When you stop insisting on relationships where you are not valued, an inevitable question arises. What comes next? For many, the emptiness that follows letting go can trigger fear. They wonder if they will ever find someone who truly values them. Is it possible to attract a relationship where love, respect, and reciprocity are the foundation? The answer is yes. But the path to get there is not the one most imagined. It's not about desperately searching, nor about rushing the process. It's also not about proving to the world that you've moved on. The true secret to attracting relationships that genuinely correspond to you is becoming the person you wish to meet. The energy you emit is the energy you attract. Everything in life operates on the basis of energy. Our emotions, thoughts, and beliefs create a vibration that the world perceives, even unconsciously. If you are still holding on to the pain of the past, if you still believe that people will hurt you, you are likely to keep attracting relationships that reinforce that belief. Not because the world is against you, but because you unconsciously seek to confirm what you already believe. But when you start working on yourself, when you become someone who loves and respects themselves and who does not accept less than they deserve, the kind of people who enter your life changes. You stop settling. You stop accepting crumbs of love. You stop allowing relationships where you have to beg for attention or validation. The healing process before attracting the right relationship is essential. Before a healthy relationship can enter your life, you must heal what once led you to accept less than you deserved. Often, the relationships we have reflect internal wounds we haven't addressed. Maybe you accepted less because you didn't believe you deserved more. Maybe you stayed in painful relationships because you were taught that love requires sacrifice. But real love is not built on suffering. You do not have to prove your worth to anyone. You do not have to convince someone to love you. You do not have to wait for someone to choose you. Healthy love flows naturally. It is built on mutual respect, admiration, and the genuine desire to be with each other, without games, without strategies, without the fear of losing. To reach that kind of love, you must first build it within yourself. You have to leave behind the scarcity mindset regarding love. One of the biggest obstacles to attracting relationships that truly align with us, it is the scarcity mindset. Many believe that if they let someone go, they will never find anyone better. They fear that if they release what no longer serves them, they will be condemned to eternal loneliness. They see love as a rare and difficult treasure to find, imagining there are few real options, and therefore think it's better to cling to anything, even if it's far from ideal. But Carl Jung taught that this mentality only keeps you trapped in relationships that do not nourish your soul. Love is not a limited resource. There isn't just one person in the world meant for you. When you shift your consciousness to recognize the abundance of love and trust that there are people capable of loving you as you truly deserve, you stop settling for less than what makes you happy. And when you stop settling, the universe, reflecting your inner reality, responds. The role of patience and trust in the process is fundamental. Attracting a relationship that genuinely resonates with your being is not an immediate event. It doesn't happen the moment you release what was never truly yours. It is a journey requiring patience, unwavering trust, and above all, a deep commitment to yourself. Along this journey, moments of doubt will inevitably arise. There will be days when you will wonder if you made the right decision by leaving behind what failed to value you. You might experience loneliness at times, questioning whether someone truly exists for you. But every time doubt creeps in, remember this: it is far better to be alone for a while and build something real than to remain in relationships that drain your spirit simply because you fear solitude. Temporary loneliness is far preferable to the wrong company. When you truly grasp this truth, when you embrace the idea that you do not need someone else to feel complete, that is when the right person finally appears. How to recognize a relationship that truly corresponds to you. When someone arrives who genuinely values you, you feel it immediately. There is no confusion, no anxiety, no endless guessing about the other person's feelings. Some signs that you are in a healthy reciprocal relationship include clear and open communication, without games or manipulations. The relationship brings peace, not anxiety. You don't feel the need to change yourself to be loved. You are accepted exactly as you are. There is balance in the effort. Both sides invest equally in the relationship. You feel safe, appreciated, and respected at all times. Relationships that truly belong to you do not generate constant distress or doubts. You do not have to wonder if the other person wants to be with you because they show you through consistent actions, not just words. The final key is this: you must become the person you wish to attract. If you desire a relationship grounded in respect, love, and stability, you must first cultivate these qualities within yourself. If you seek a partner who values you deeply, begin by valuing yourself. If you desire emotional maturity in a partner, you must first work on your own emotional maturity. If you long for sincere, reciprocal love, you must stop settling for anything less. The love you accept is a reflection of the love you believe you deserve. When you become the best version of yourself, when you prioritize your own growth, your happiness, and your inner peace, you begin to attract people who resonate at that same frequency. Not because you are actively searching for them, but because by changing who you are, you inevitably change what you attract. And when that transformation occurs, the love that enters your life is no longer something you must chase or force. It is the kind of love that flows naturally, the kind that adds to your life, the kind that truly belongs to you. The love you attract is always a mirror of the love you give yourself. If you continue to settle for relationships where you are not truly valued, it is time to pause and look inward. It is not about finding the right person, but about becoming someone who loves themselves enough to no longer accept less than they deserve. The emptiness you feel after releasing what is not meant for you is only temporary, but the growth that follows is permanent. Stop seeking external validation and start building a strong, unwavering relationship with yourself. When you truly value yourself, the type of love you attract transforms. And the most beautiful part is that when you let go of what does not contribute to your growth, you create space for something far greater than you ever imagined. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so that we can continue growing together. There's something deeply transformative about realizing that everything you experience in life, both what you love and what you fear, originates from within. Carl Jung dedicated his life to unraveling the mysteries of the human mind, showing us that the key to solving our problems isn't found outside of ourselves, but rather within, in the vast universe of our inner being. Every experience you go through, every challenge you face, is a doorway to deeper knowledge about who you are. Jung taught us that the unconscious is not just a storage room for repressed memories or unresolved emotions, but an inexhaustible source of wisdom and guidance. Yet, in the rush to survive in the modern world, we've lost touch with that part of ourselves. We distract ourselves with external noise, chasing quick fixes to complex problems without pausing to hear the silent voice of our inner being. Imagine for a moment that your problems aren't obstacles to avoid, but messages to interpret. Perhaps that toxic relationship that seems impossible to resolve is merely a reflection of an unhealed wound within you. Or maybe that constant sense of dissatisfaction at work isn't a sign of failure, but an invitation to explore your true passions. Jung showed us that each hardship is actually a disguised teacher, calling us to look inward and rediscover the parts of ourselves we've forgotten or ignored. There's something deeply transformative about realizing that everything you experience in life, both what you love and what you fear, originates from within. Carl Jung dedicated his life to unraveling the mysteries of the human mind, showing us that the key to solving our problems isn't found outside of ourselves, but within, in the vast universe of the unconscious. Every experience you go through, every challenge you face, is a doorway to deeper knowledge about who you are. Jung taught us that the conscious mind isn't merely a storage room for repressed memories or unresolved emotions, but a limitless source of wisdom and inner direction. Still, in our rush to survive the modern world, we've lost our connection to that part of ourselves. We get distracted by the noise around us, looking for fast solutions to deep problems, without stopping to listen to the quiet voice within. Imagine, just for a moment, that your problems aren't barriers to overcome, but coded messages waiting to be understood. Maybe that toxic relationship that seems unsolvable is only a mirror of an internal wound still waiting to heal. Or maybe that constant dissatisfaction with your job isn't a sign of failure, but a clear call to explore your authentic path. Jung reminded us that every difficulty is a veiled mentor, inviting us to turn inward and rediscover forgotten parts of our soul. Most people take the easier path. They ignore these inner signals and continue trapped in routines that leave them unfulfilled. But you're not here to settle. You're here because you know there's something more, something calling you from the deepest part of your being. And while this path is not easy, Jung reminds us that it's the only one truly worth taking. True growth happens when you dare to walk into the unknown, that place where you confront your fears, your doubts, and your shadow. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also transformative, because in that process of inner exploration, you discover not just who you are, but who you can become. Think back to those moments in life when everything felt out of control. Maybe it was a breakup, a painful loss, or an unexpected change. Those moments, though full of pain, are actually doorways to deeper self-understanding. Jung said, "There's no awakening of consciousness without pain." But that pain is not a punishment. It's a gift, a chance to free yourself from what no longer serves you and create space for something new. The problem is that as humans, we fear the void. We cling to the familiar, even when it harms us, rather than letting go and facing the uncertainty. But here's the secret Jung wanted us to discover. The void isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. It's in that emptiness where the magic happens, where something new can blossom, and where you can begin to live a life that truly reflects who you are. The unconscious also expresses itself through the people we attract into our lives. Have you noticed how certain patterns repeat in your relationships? Maybe you always end up surrounded by people who drain you more than they nourish you. Or maybe you face constant struggles with someone who seems to reflect your deepest fears. This is no coincidence. According to Carl Jung, the people who appear in our lives, especially those who trigger us emotionally, are mirrors of our unconscious mind. They reflect back to us the parts of ourselves that we have yet to acknowledge, accept, or integrate. These individuals and the conflicts they stir up aren't random. They are deeply symbolic. They serve as signposts pointing toward inner work that is still unfinished. So, the next time you find yourself caught in a conflict or trapped in a pattern of recurring problems, don't rush to assign blame or escape the discomfort. Instead, pause, reflect. Ask yourself, what is this situation revealing about me? What hidden aspect of myself is being brought into the light? And perhaps most importantly, what lesson is life trying to teach me here? Jung emphasized that one of the most powerful steps towards self-awareness is the act of letting go. Often, we cling to relationships, jobs, identities, or belief systems simply because they feel familiar, even if they no longer resonate with who we are becoming. We stay out of fear. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of being alone or failing. But when you hold on to something that no longer serves you, you close the door to what's meant for you. You block new energy from flowing into your life. However, the moment you choose to release what's outdated, you send a powerful message to your unconscious mind. I am ready for something better. And like a ripple effect, life begins to respond. Suddenly, the right people start appearing. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable begin to unfold in front of you. It might feel like magic, but it's not. It's the direct result of inner transformation. By aligning your energy with your truth, you open yourself to possibilities that were always there, just waiting for you to see them. Jung reminded us that life isn't about chasing superficial happiness. It's about pursuing wholeness. And wholeness is only possible when you come back to yourself. Not just the version you show the world, but the full, complex, authentic self that includes your light and your shadow. It means telling the truth about what you really want, what you genuinely need, and what you are no longer willing to tolerate. Every day, you are offered the chance to make choices that reflect your inner truth. Choices that bring you closer to the life you truly want to live. But this path demands courage. It requires you to listen to that quiet inner voice, the one that has always been trying to guide you toward what elevates your spirit. When Jung spoke of personal transformation, he didn't speak from a place of idealism or false positivity. He spoke of a deep, often painful process, one that involves confronting the most hidden, denied, and disowned aspects of our psyche. Jung called this hidden part of ourselves the shadow. And what's most fascinating is that every human being has a shadow, without exception. The shadow contains everything we suppress or deny because it doesn't fit the image we want to present to the world. It might be fear, anger, jealousy, insecurity, or even talents and strengths we've never dared to claim. Why do we repress these parts? Because our upbringing, our society, and our internalized beliefs have taught us that some aspects of who we are simply not acceptable. But here's the truth. The shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. On the contrary, the more you reject it, the more power it gains. And eventually, it begins to manifest in ways you can't control. Maybe you've noticed yourself reacting too strongly to minor situations, a simple comment triggering a wave of rage or shame. Or maybe you found yourself sabotaging your own goals and relationships time and time again without understanding why. These are all signs that your shadow is speaking, begging to be seen, heard, and integrated. Integrating the shadow is not easy, but it is absolutely essential if you want to live an authentic life. Jung teaches us that we cannot be whole until we accept every part of ourselves, both what we call good and what we call bad. Because in truth, those labels are just judgments. What you view as negative in yourself might actually be a hidden strength. And what you praise as positive might just be a mask you wear to be accepted. The first step in this process, according to Jung, is deep self-observation. This doesn't mean judging yourself or punishing yourself. It means looking inward with honesty and compassion. Ask yourself, what parts of me have I been avoiding? What emotions do I find difficult to face? What repeating patterns in my life are pointing me toward the same unresolved truth? These questions don't just bring awareness, they open the door to profound healing. One of Jung's most intriguing concepts is that of projection. He believed that what we cannot accept in ourselves, we unconsciously project onto others. That's why the people who irritate us the most, who challenge us, frustrate us, or even trigger us, are often mirrors of our own shadow. That arrogant person who gets under your skin may be reflecting your own denied need for self-worth. That colleague who always seems to push your buttons may be shining a light on your deepest insecurities. The important thing to understand is that these projections are not coincidences. They are invitations to grow. When you begin to view your external conflicts not as attacks, but as reflections, everything changes. You stop blaming the world, and you start taking responsibility for your own inner landscape. This isn't about justifying others' behavior. It's about discovering what their presence is revealing about you. And this shift in perception is incredibly liberating, because when you stop being a victim of circumstance and begin to see yourself as the author of your own story, you take back your power. You begin to live from a place of conscious choice rather than unconscious reaction. Jung's answer is clear. With courage and self-acceptance, the journey begins. The first step is recognizing the existence of the shadow. This acknowledgement can be unsettling, even painful, because it means facing the parts of yourself you've long tried to ignore. The insecurities, the suppressed emotions, the impulses you judge as shameful or unacceptable. But it's essential to understand something fundamental. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's not some external threat to be defeated or eliminated. Rather, it's a hidden part of you that longs to be accepted, understood, and even loved. Once you recognize its presence, the next step is observation. Watch how the shadow shows up in your everyday life. What emotions do you suppress when they arise? What automatic thoughts hold you back? Which situations trigger strong, even irrational reactions? Each one of these moments is not random. They are clues. Clues that lead you to the deepest parts of your psyche, revealing hidden wounds, unresolved fears, and repressed desires. These observations don't just offer insight, they open the door to a profound transformation. But transformation requires more than just awareness. It demands radical self-acceptance. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." This means that as long as you're fighting your shadow, denying it, or pretending it doesn't exist, it continues to control you from behind the curtain. It shapes your decisions, your relationships, and your inner world. But when you stop fighting it and begin to accept it as a natural part of who you are, you loosen its grip. You no longer act from a place of fear, shame, or anger. You begin to act from authenticity, from balance. This is not a quick fix. It is a lifelong journey. There will be highs and lows, breakthroughs and setbacks. But every single step you take toward embracing your shadow brings you closer to wholeness. And something remarkable begins to happen. Your relationships improve, your decisions become wiser, and the problems that once seemed insurmountable start to resolve themselves, not through force, but through inner clarity. And the beauty of this process is that it doesn't just change you, it changes the world around you. When you dare to live authentically, you give others permission to do the same. Your transformation becomes a catalyst, a ripple that spreads through your environment, subtly shifting the energy of those you interact with. Jung believed that real change in society begins with the individual. The courage to be whole, to integrate both light and shadow, can inspire communities and cultures to evolve, starting with you. To Jung, the ultimate goal of life was not superficial happiness, not the fleeting moments of pleasure that so many chase, but meaning. And that meaning is only found when you give yourself permission to be who you truly are, light and dark, strength and vulnerability, joy and sorrow. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about embracing the totality of your being. Because in the end, life is not about avoiding pain or conflict, but about learning, growing, and transforming through them. Jung understood better than most how difficult this process can be. He often described it as a confrontation with the self, a courageous and often painful encounter that demands honesty, introspection, and above all, patience. The self, according to Jung, is the central point of our entire being. It includes both our conscious identity and the vast realm of the unconscious. It is who we truly are, beyond the roles we play, beyond the masks we wear to fit in. But we cannot access the self directly. We must journey toward it through what Jung called the process of individuation. This process is the path to becoming whole. It involves peeling away the layers of cultural expectations, social conditioning, and limiting beliefs that we've accumulated over time. It's a return to the authentic essence that lies beneath all of that, a rediscovery of what makes you uniquely you. One of the greatest obstacles on this path is the ego. The ego is not inherently bad. In fact, it's a necessary part of our structure, but it often acts as a gatekeeper, afraid of change, afraid of losing control. It's the voice that says, "Don't go there. It's too dangerous," or "Don't look inside. You won't like what you find." Jung taught that we cannot destroy the ego, but we can transform it. We can stop treating it as a prison guard and start working with it, integrating it into a more expansive and balanced sense of self. Individuation isn't just an inward process, it's deeply connected to the outer world as well. Jung believed in the profound interconnection between the psyche and the world around us. The people we meet, the events we experience, even the seemingly random coincidences we encounter, all of these are expressions of our inner world manifesting externally. This brings us to one of Jung's most fascinating and revolutionary ideas, synchronicity. Synchronicity is the belief that certain events are not linked by cause and effect, but by meaning. It's that feeling you get when the universe seems to be speaking to you, when something happens at just the right time, in just the right way, to deliver a message your soul needed to hear. Maybe you're struggling, lost in confusion, and suddenly you stumble upon a book that speaks directly to your situation. Or you strike up a random conversation with a stranger and their words completely shift your perspective. Jung saw these moments as confirmations that you're aligned with your path, that your unconscious and the universe are in dialogue, guiding you toward evolution. But to notice these signs, you must be open. You must be quiet enough inside to hear the whisper of intuition. That subtle, persistent inner knowing is one of the most powerful tools we have. It doesn't come from logic or analysis. It arises from deep within, from the unconscious. And yet, in modern society, we're taught to ignore this voice. We're trained to rely solely on data, on facts, on rational explanations. Intuition gets dismissed as unscientific, unreliable. But Jung reminds us that intuition is not irrational, it is super-rational. It transcends the limitations of conscious thought, connecting us to a source of wisdom beyond the ego. To strengthen your intuition, you must practice listening. This can be as simple as taking a few minutes each day to sit in silence. Observe your thoughts. Tune in to your emotions. Ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me? What feelings are surfacing? What patterns keep repeating in my mind? These practices deepen your connection to your inner world. They help you see the signs, the signals, and the nudges that guide you toward growth. And perhaps most importantly, they help you embrace one of the greatest truths Jung ever taught, that change is inevitable. He said, "The only constant in life is change. Resisting this flow only creates suffering. But when you allow life to move through you, when you say yes to the unknown, you begin to see that even the most painful experiences carry a purpose." Think back to a time when you faced a major loss, a devastating challenge. In the moment, it might have felt like the end of everything. But looking back, can you see how it shaped you? How it made you wiser, stronger, more compassionate? That's the essence of transformation. Every crisis, every breakdown contains the seed of renewal. What feels like an ending is often a beginning in disguise. This is the psychological process of rebirth, another core idea in Jung's work. Rebirth is not just a metaphor or a symbolic event. It is a lived, ongoing cycle of death and renewal. Each time you shed an old identity, each time you release a limiting belief, a toxic relationship, or a deep-rooted fear, you create space for something new to emerge. Carl Jung teaches us that the path to wholeness is not a fixed destination. It is a lifelong journey, a continuous process of inner exploration, learning, and transformation. This path is not always smooth or easy. In fact, it often challenges us, pushes us to our limits, and confronts us with aspects of ourselves we might prefer to ignore. But within this very process, there are also moments of deep meaning, unexpected joy, and powerful connection with ourselves, with others, and with something greater than us. Ultimately, what we are truly seeking is not the absence of problems, but the wisdom, strength, and grace to face them with courage and awareness. As you move forward in this unfolding journey of self-discovery and transformation, it is crucial to remember, you are not alone. Jung believed that we are all deeply connected through what he called the collective unconscious. This revolutionary concept suggests that beyond our individual experiences, there exists a shared reservoir of archetypes, symbols, and universal patterns that have been shaped and inherited by humanity throughout the ages. The collective unconscious is like an underground river flowing beneath the surface of every human being, linking us to the ancestral wisdom and experiences of those who came before us. Within this collective unconscious live the archetypes, those fundamental images and ideas that appear across cultures, myths, religions, dreams, and stories. Jung identified many of them: the hero, the sage, the lover, the shadow, each representing essential aspects of the human experience. These archetypes are not confined to fairy tales or ancient myths. They are alive within us. When we confront challenges or major life transitions, these archetypes may emerge to guide us, support us, or challenge us. For instance, when you decide to face a deep fear, you are invoking the hero within, a force that compels you to rise above your limitations, confront the unknown, and uncover a braver, more resilient version of yourself. Yet archetypes can also be sources of inner conflict if we do not recognize or integrate them. Take the shadow, for example, one of the most complex and potent archetypes. If we remain unaware of our own shadow, the hidden, repressed, or denied parts of ourselves, it can begin to operate unconsciously, shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and emotional responses in destructive ways. We might find ourselves repeating the same painful patterns, sabotaging our relationships, or projecting our fears onto others. But when we summon the courage to face our shadow, to dialogue with it and understand it, we unlock its immense potential for personal growth, healing, and self-empowerment. One of the most fascinating dimensions of the collective unconscious is how it reveals itself through dreams. For Jung, dreams were not just random images or irrelevant thoughts. They were a bridge between the conscious mind and the deeper layers of the unconscious. In dreams, symbols and narratives emerge with purpose. They are messages from the depths of our psyche, trying to guide us, warn us, or awaken us. Water in a dream, for example, may represent emotions or the vast terrain of the unconscious. A house might symbolize your mind, with each room revealing a different aspect of yourself. These symbols, while deeply personal, also have roots in universal imagery embedded in the collective unconscious. Learning to interpret your dreams, Jung believed, is like learning a new language, one that connects you to the most ancient and wise parts of your being. But the work does not end with interpretation. Jung encouraged us to act on the messages found in our dreams. If a recurring dream points you toward a path you've never dared to consider, perhaps it's time to explore it. If a dream reveals a hidden fear or insecurity, then that is an invitation to confront it, to bring it into the light, and to transform it. Each time you take these steps, small as they may seem, you strengthen your relationship with your inner world and gain a deeper understanding of who you are. Over time, this connection to the unconscious becomes a powerful force in your life. It helps you live more intentionally, align with your true nature, and experience a greater sense of inner peace and authenticity. And yet, this journey of integration is not something you have to undertake in isolation. Jung deeply believed in the transformative power of human relationships. Every person you encounter, whether friend, partner, mentor, or even adversary, can serve as a mirror, reflecting parts of yourself you might not yet recognize. When someone inspires you, it may be because they embody an archetype you are yearning to awaken within yourself. On the other hand, when someone triggers anger, resentment, or frustration, they may be reflecting aspects of your shadow that need to be acknowledged and embraced. This way of looking at others doesn't mean we excuse harmful behavior or avoid holding boundaries. Rather, it invites us to use every interaction as an opportunity for greater self-awareness and growth. Imagine for a moment how your perspective on life would shift if you saw every relationship as a vital piece of your inner puzzle. Instead of resisting difficulties, you might embrace them with curiosity. Instead of running from conflict, you might lean into it, asking, "What can I learn from this? What is this experience trying to teach me?" As you commit to this inner work, you will begin to notice outward changes. Some relationships may naturally fall away as they no longer align with your evolving self, while new, more authentic connections begin to appear. Your priorities will shift. You may stop chasing goals that once seemed important, but no longer fulfill you, and begin to focus on what truly brings you joy, meaning, and a sense of purpose. This kind of transformation does not happen overnight. It is not the result of one great insight, but of many small, brave choices made again and again. And yet, each of those choices carries immense power. The legacy of Carl Jung is not just a set of psychological theories, it is a profound invitation to live more consciously, more truthfully, and more fully. He challenges us to turn inward, to explore our darkness, to trust our inner guidance, and to walk this path of transformation with humility and resolve. Remember, the journey toward wholeness is not a final destination, but a road you travel each and every day. And on that road, every problem you face, every shadow you integrate, every step you take toward your most authentic self is a profound victory. This journey is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. It is about living in harmony with who you truly are. As you continue walking this sacred path, never forget, even the smallest step taken in self-awareness is a radical act of courage. Embracing your shadow, listening to your dreams, and aligning with the collective unconscious are not only acts of personal transformation, they ripple outward and impact the world around you. Because when you dare to live with authenticity, you light a path that others can follow. Your growth is not just for you. It is a light for others, a quiet force of healing that touches lives in ways you may never fully see. Carl Jung taught us something profoundly transformative. The true purpose of life is not to avoid problems, but to learn from them. It's not about chasing perfection, but about discovering a deep sense of fulfillment through authenticity. And that journey begins with you, with every choice you make to look inward, to face your fears, and to embrace who you truly are beneath the surface. This process, though often uncomfortable and challenging, is the very path to liberation. It demands courage, honesty, and patience. But I promise you, it's worth every step. Because when you begin to reconnect with your essence, the truest version of yourself, everything in your life begins to align. your relationships evolve, your decisions carry more clarity, and above all, you begin to cultivate an inner peace that no external circumstance can shake. So now, I invite you to reflect deeply for a moment. What part of your shadow are you willing to face today? What message has your intuition been whispering that you've chosen to ignore? And perhaps the most important question of all, what small, tangible step can you take right now that would move you closer to your truth? You don't need to have all the answers figured out. You don't need to see the entire path ahead. You just need to be willing to take the first step, to show up for yourself, to say yes to the journey of self-discovery and transformation. If this message resonates with you, then you are not alone. You are part of a larger movement, a community of people who are choosing to grow, to evolve, and to transform their lives from the inside out. Share this message with someone who might need to hear it, because sometimes just one sentence, one idea, one moment of connection can be the catalyst that completely changes someone's life. And if you feel called to, leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this message spoke to your heart, or what step you're willing to take today to begin your own process of healing and awakening. Your words won't just support your journey, they will inspire others who read them. You never know who might need to see your truth to awaken their own. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I warmly invite you to do so now. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. Every time you like, comment, or share this video, you're helping to spread this message to more souls who could benefit from it. Together, we can build a space where reflection, wisdom, and emotional connection become tools for profound change. Remember, change always begins with you. Every decision you make to grow, to face your fears, to live in alignment with your true self, that's not just personal evolution. It's a contribution to a more conscious and connected world. A world that needs more truth, more light, and more brave souls like you. This is your moment. Dare to be who you truly are, because the world is in desperate need of more people who are willing to live with authenticity and courage. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And above all, thank you for being part of this family. I'll see you in the next video. I'll be waiting for you.